Good afternoon, hi, and welcome to a live edition of Mid-South Viewpoint. I'm Byron Tyler. Pleasure to come to you live downtown Memphis. I think we're making an historic broadcast today. I'm trying to recall if I've ever done a live broadcast from downtown Memphis, and I don't recall. So what better person to do it with than John Carroll, who's the Executive Director of City Leadership. John, good to see you.
Hey, good to see you too, man. Thanks for having us on.
Hey, we've been planning this for a while. Matter of fact, I caught you a few months ago, your wife and how many kids? 5, 6 kids?
I got 4 kids. 4 kids. Don't give me any more. They're all I can handle. They're amazing, but 4 kids.
But I caught up with you right outside the Orpheum. Matter of fact, I saw this lady trying to pose the 4 children right in front of one of the marquees there. And I kind of felt sorry. I thought I should put her in the picture and take the picture, you know. And then I realized that was your wife.
Yes.
Then you walk up.
Yeah, and so we were obviously going to the show there at the Orpheum and seeing you and your son and connecting in that moment. And so it was good to bump into you. And obviously you mentioned, hey, hadn't been on the radio in a while with you, and so let's do a show. And then had this crazy idea to come and do it in our offices here downtown.
Yeah, well, there's a backstory to your being here in Memphis, John. Originally, you moved here to go on staff at Church Fellowship Memphis.
Yep.
And you moved from Texas?
Moved from Texas, did the coffee company thing for a while. I was at Ugly Mug Coffee and did the business deal, and then had an opportunity to be operations head over at Fellowship, and did that for a little bit. And we came up with this idea to do full-time consulting and coaching for nonprofits, and launched City Leadership in 2010.
Now, I was thinking back, the luncheons that City Leadership was sponsoring, I really enjoyed those. I don't know if you're still doing those same luncheons or not. If you are, I haven't been invited. But you were doing some great networking lunches with the business community and getting to hear from some great leaders like CEO of St. Jude. I remember one.
Yes.
And Police Director Armstrong at that time.
Yeah, we had both the mayors. We had Mayor Wharton and Mayor Luttrell, and President Raines, who was former president of University of Memphis back in the day. But those first couple of years, we were using those as leadership forums to catalyze people and bring people together and network. And honestly, I love those. I wish we still had time to do those. Back then we were actually just 2 staff and an intern or 2, and those were a way of being able to reach out and be able to meet people and connect, even for us, not just for the people coming. But we looked at some great subjects of leadership lessons, and we're able to make a lot of great relationships. And honestly, over the time, Byron, we've got so much work to do now that it's hard to make time for those kind of deals. And there's some other cool people doing some of that space. Jeremy Park has got a really interesting deal.
Jeremy's been on my program.
Yeah, with what he's doing at Liscombe Pitts Breakfast, and the Chambers created some pretty cool events as well. And so there's some other people in that space doing some interesting things. Ours was unique because we pursued nonprofits and then invited others. I wish we could still make time to do that. We've grown from 2 people to 19 people over the past 6 years, and so the work has gotten pretty big and pretty heavy, and so it's hard to make time to do everything these days.
John, of course, you transplant from Texas, last place you lived before you moved to Memphis. How long ago has that been? How many years?
Yeah, we moved in 2004. I'm originally from Tennessee. I'm a Tennessee guy, and so I'm from Murfreesboro. Had never lived in Memphis before. I didn't ever really have Memphis on my radar. Didn't think anything bad about it, but didn't think anything good about it either. I just knew it was over here, and it was a cool city, but I didn't think through a career scenario there. But I'd moved to Texas in 2000, met my wife, we got married, and thought about making a coffee company, and had some friends that were moving here to plant that church, and thought, why don't we go there and come alongside what they're doing? And even then we thought we would move, on from Memphis in a couple of years. But we just really fell in love with this place. When we came here, my wife came here literally kicking and screaming, wanting to go back to Texas. But now, if I left, I think she'd stay. Well, where are you going? And so I love this place, and I can't imagine living anywhere else.
Well, that brings up my next direction in this conversation today, and that is, every city, place where you can move has its own dynamic, has its own character, has its own culture. Really what makes the community, who it is, the people, just the environment itself. What was it about Memphis that has grown on you, that you have fallen in love with, that you want to promote, you want other people to come to Memphis and be involved with and experience like you are?
Well, I think the thing that we say a lot here, and you may have heard somebody else say it similarly like this, or trying to say the same thing in the sentence I'm going to say, but Memphis has big city amenities with a hometown feel. And I think that, after living in Dallas and feeling, you had everything there, but you felt like you knew no one, even though there were millions and millions of people. And it just, everything felt so far apart and so disconnected, and it was hard to be a part of anything. And I remember going even to Dallas Mavericks games or Ranger games and feeling like, how do you get there? It's a stranger, different kind of stuff. And, you go to Grizzlies games and I feel like I see all my friends. I see my neighbors, people I go to church with, people I work with. And I know I know a lot of the local owners. I know them personally. They've become friends. And so it's just interesting that it's just a totally different city and seeing that. And then, when we got here, we didn't realize that Memphis had so much to offer. Professional sports, unbelievable parks, great food, unbelievable accessibility. We didn't understand how easy Memphis was to network in, make friends, be connected. Everybody. There's only 2 degrees of separation here. You meet one person, they know the next person. There's no far off deal, that kind of deal. But then how easy it is, right? Homes are so affordable. There's no traffic basically in my world. I don't live out there out east and where the traffic is, but downtown, midtown, if you're third in line at a red light, you're in rush hour. You know what I'm saying? And so it's just unbelievable great compared to Dallas, especially, and to Nashville and Chicago. And so, and then even inside of all those kind of things, we just found that people are just really great, nice, hospitable, friendly people, and they want to be your friends. And so it's hard to not have a lot of new friends all the time if you just say hi to somebody.
Yeah.
And that makes the city great.
Yeah, and what's exciting is the synergy that you create. I mean, I'm a lifelong Memphian, St. Joseph Hospital on the other side of downtown, which is no longer here. It was torn down. That's where I was born. So that's where my life began, in downtown Memphis, where we are right now, So when you come and you see these things and you experience these, this life here, it creates some excitement for Memphians that say, hey, wait a minute, what am I missing, Because there has sometimes been a negative rap on Memphis. We know that the news broadcasts, unfortunately, there's crime and there's other issues that any city has to deal with. But there's the positive things that need to be highlighted, promoted, shared, and you have created a place here through city leadership, and with your staff. You mentioned the staff has grown to 19.
Oh, wow.
And we've grabbed 2 of the staff members here.
Yeah, introduce them. Let's talk about that.
Yeah, we've got, first we've got Jeff, we've got Lisa. Lisa is with public relations and city leadership.
Yes.
And she didn't know she was going to be on the radio today.
No.
We just grabbed her and said, Lisa, you're on the air.
It's a lovely surprise.
Lisa, tell me about your story. Are you a Memphian? Did you come to Memphis?
I'm a native Memphian. I only left to go to school in Missouri and then spent a couple of years after graduation living and working in other places before I decided to come back here for my master's, and I've been here ever since. And so it's been wonderful to me to witness this, the tide turning, to see people go from this defeatist sort of attitude about Memphis to full-on pride and energy into improving all the things that matter to us.
I just came back off a road trip for business up in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, and I had never been in that part of the country before, and it was an interesting experience.
It's Amish country.
It's Amish country. I went out on one of the Amish farms and got to do that, and it's plowing season right now, so you can imagine what's in the air right now. It's really strong. But anyway, it was neat to go there, but you know what? It wasn't home. I mean, there were some things about it I enjoyed. I learned some things, but I honestly miss Memphis. And it was when the closer we got, the more excited we were. Hey, we're coming home, And there is something about Memphis that, as you use the word, taking pride in, and you really can. We can take pride in our city. What is your responsibility? What do you do when you talk about PR? What exactly are you promoting through city leadership, through Choose 901?
Well, part of my job is to sort of make sure that people understand who we are and what we do and why we do it. I think that people get a little uncomfortable about the idea of recruiting people to come to Memphis when they say, oh, we have perfectly wonderful people here who need jobs. But there's also a great need for more people. So we want to appreciate and support the people that we have here and keep them here, but also get more people here to contribute to this this wave of progress.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So is marketing outside the city, a part of this project too?
It is. It is sort of getting people to feel connected to all the things that are happening here and getting them to want to participate. Yeah. So externally, try and get people interested. Yeah.
Well, we've got also Jeff, as I mentioned, Jeff Riddle. And Jeff, you are the Serve 901. We've got Choose 901, Serve 901. You guys, John, are definitely going to confuse me this afternoon. But Serve 901 coordinator, and a whole different, another aspect of what Choose 901 is, where folks can actually plug in.
Yes, absolutely. So Serve 901 is a branch of our, recruiting aspect to Memphis. My job ultimately is to showcase Memphis to college students who are considering like alternative spring break service trips. So actually welcoming them to Memphis, hosting them, educating them about the city, letting them hear from leaders. So, John used to host these city leadership forums. This spring we've been hosting urban issues panels, and so they've had different themes. We have one more left, and that's primarily for our Serve 901 teams that are in town from, as far as, a group that came from Boston University 2 weeks ago, all the way to Memphis.
Well, John, you just mentioned a moment ago that you are seeing some close to 500 college students come to Memphis this spring?
Yeah, we'll have around 500 college students. They'll come from 30 some odd organizations this spring, and so and they're coming from all over the country. There's some really cool maps. If you look at Instagram and look at the Serve 901 handle, you'll see some really cool maps of where these people are coming from. But the big thing is that tens of thousands of college students every year take their spring break and invest it into another community locally or into like domestically in somewhere. And what we really started was thinking, how do we get as many of those people to come and invest that time here? They're coming to basically take a trip. They're going to invest money into housing, food, and entertainment in the city. But during the day, they're going to invest their sweat and their time and their energy and their hopes and dreams into our community centers, our gardens, our neighborhoods, our rebuild project, cleaning our streets. And we're creating thousands and thousands of volunteer hours here in the city. Well, while we're doing that, we're taking that one extra step to say, hey, would you consider come back here do an internship at St. Jude this summer? Would you like to come after school and do a residency program at Teach for America here instead of what other city you're considering? Or what does it look like if you'd be interested in applying to work at FedEx or AutoZone and looking for that kind of talent? And so they fall in love with the city. Most of these students, Memphis is nowhere near their radar as a place that they would even consider moving ever or even really visiting. They end up on a college trip. They come here. They hang out with Jeff for a week. And they leave, and our stats show over and over again, they leave here thinking, I got to get back there. I might even want to move there, and I might even want to live the rest of my life there because it was just such a cool experience.
Right. Jeff, what are some of the top reasons why these students are saying, I want to come back to Memphis?
Well, I think that, as John said, so many universities send these trips to different places. And in my interactions with groups, sometimes the college students on top of their coursework will, be making phone calls right and left to St. Jude, Le Bonheur, different Memphis organizations trying to piece together a trip. Well, when they encounter me, they encounter somebody that knows the local landscape. And I'm able to bring in that Memphis story. We share about the yellow fever epidemic. All of our groups see the Civil Rights Museum. They really see the Memphis history, the good, the bad, and the ugly. They also hear, personal stories. They hear, what inspired me to get to Memphis.
Right.
I ultimately saw things that I wanted to be a part of. I met two people with a white guy and a black guy who both had very distinct pasts. They had one fellow had been part of a white supremacy group, another guy had been beat up by a white supremacy group, and they were talking about how they could merge their work, how they could minister to people on the streets, people
Wow.
in prostitution, and that was as a fly on the wall. I came to Music Fest to hang out with some of my friends who were here for medical school, and I got to have breakfast with these gentlemen, and just hear their conversation, and that racial reconciliation was just contagious. I wanted to be engaged in work that was moving in that direction to make people love one another better, and I think ultimately love place and community better.
Yeah.
So-
Well, Lisa, as an African American lady who's grown up in our city, I mean, how does this inspire you to see outsiders? You and I are both Memphians, but again, to see outsiders like John and Jeff, who've adopted our city, who become one with our city, who love our city. What does that mean for you? As you've grown up in our city and you've seen, I'm sure, a lot, as he mentions the race issue and other issues that have plagued our city for a long time. What does it mean for you to see Choose 901 city leadership make such strides to be positive and show the good things about our city?
It feels great that it feels like it's coming from a place of collaboration. I don't feel like anybody's coming in and like instituting their will on a group of people. I feel like everybody's talking and listening and working together, and I think that's been really positive.
That is great, John.
Well, I think that's what's really awesome, and I think what's really interesting as well is that there's this big shift, and it's hard for a lot of people who are the older generations to really understand this. When we really think through three major generations existing right now, millennials, which are most of our 20-somethings, or all of our 20-somethings are millennials right now. Then Generation X, my generation, and the baby boomers. And a lot of baby boomers are in a lot of control, and they make a lot of decisions and pull whatever. But what they don't understand about millennials is that millennials look at what's historically been viewed as a big problems for city as an opportunity. And what we figured out is that to recruit the kind of people to our city and retain the type of people that we want to be the leadership in our city that are currently here, that are major threat risks to go to other cities and make big impacts, that they need access to the problems because they want to get involved in it. They actually don't want their lives to be about just themselves. And if you actually look past on history, the people that we raise up as heroes, right, are people who are making their lives about making other people's lives better. And we have to be able to talk about the opportunities that people have in Memphis, whether they're already here or to move here, to be a part of that. And so what historically has been viewed as big problems in our city are actually can be pitched as assets, as opportunities for them to come and make a huge impact and to do something very significant with at least a season, if not their entire life. And we need to stop building fences around our problems or looking to separate from our problems, but actually understand that that we are actually inviting people to come join us in making progress on our problems. That we need to highlight the people who are making progress on those problems and talk about the access they have to become a part of that community instead of creating more divide. And that's a really hard thing for people who don't understand that and aren't close enough to the people of great need and understand how people who are so talented, who could do anything in the world, who could go be a millionaire in some other city and live selfishly in whichever way they so choose or desired, want to actually come to Memphis and give at least a season, if not a lot of their life away to making other people's lives better. And in Memphis, we have great access to make significant impact. You move to New York, and you might be able to serve in some way, you might be able to do whatever, but the scale's so large, it's hard to really make a difference. You come to Memphis, and you can really get your hands around the entire homeless community, or what's actually happening in teenage pregnancy, or you can actually make a really big difference in a community school. And so we have a unique opportunity to have this big city amenities and big city problems, just like every other big city in the country, but also have this incredible city where you can have access to make a difference and do what they really want their lives to be about.
Wow. And Jeff, as you help coordinate the service through 901, talk about some of the projects, some of the practical ways that, these college students are plugging into our city.
Yeah, absolutely. We're talking in the month of March. It's my busiest time of year. So
Aren't you supposed to be somewhere else? Why are you even here?
Yeah. Actually, I heard that message from my coworker Luke. He's like, John's like wondering why you're here, Jeff. You have 7 universities in town this week, and so, anyways, we this week we've had volunteers each day over at the Neighborhood Christian Center on Jackson Avenue. Each spring they do an event called Spring Jam. The idea is that there might be kids that grow up in Memphis in certain neighborhoods that may not get to travel to another country. And so they pick a country each year to pick as a theme.
I have been to that. It's amazing what they do.
Yeah, so they're recreating 3 cities of India for this year's Spring Jam. It's going to be going on tomorrow and Saturday. So I believe I think 1,500 folks in Memphis get to go through that each year. It's a 2-hour experience to go through the building. We've had people building huge things out of paper mache and wood, and it's like a huge arts and crafts project.
Yeah.
And so we just we send people there, work all day, eat barbecue while they're in town. We had another group that was working with a urban farmer in Orange Mound earlier in the week, and he's actually trying to start a catfish pond.
Here in the city?
Yeah, in the middle of Orange Mound.
I love it.
On Carnes Avenue, which used to be one of the big hubs for industry in Orange Mound when it was first developed. In that,
now, how many of these college students who have agricultural degrees or, degrees of that nature would ever think they would come to inside, an urban setting community and be able to use that talent, that training, to as you've mentioned, John, is to better someone else's life, to help them. Isn't that a great story, Lisa, there?
Well, absolutely. Yeah, that's what we all hope for. I don't think anyone wants to give the impression that there isn't still a lot of work to do, but there's a lot of great work being done. It's because people feel, in a sense, called to affect lives in a positive way.
Now, how did you first hear about city leadership and Choose 901 and connect with this organization?
It was like it came out of nowhere, and it was huge very fast, this whole Choose 901 thing. And I was very impressed with that, but I didn't fully understand everything behind it and where it came from. But I ended up I worked with someone whose husband works here and got to know more about the organization, and it just felt like it's such a gift to be able to go to work and feel so connected to what you do and so energized by what it's all for. And so that's a feeling that I've been chasing in my career, and it feels good to have it.
What's the one thing, Lisa, about what you do that, you just the one thing that really, you talked about the motivation, but that you would not be able to give up at all? I mean, you would have to have working here because it gives you that much excitement, energy, joy. I mean, what would that be?
I think I don't know if I can point to any one thing that I do, but I think the whole support for teachers is huge. I think this urban education reform and this movement, it's a social justice issue, and people can't change their lives or break cycles of poverty without better education opportunities. And so why wouldn't you want to be pro-teacher, pro-school systems being strong as they can? it's hugely important, and it affects so many other things that it just makes sense.
And that is really, I'm glad, that is a great note as we start to wrap up our program here, John, because you and I were talking before we went on air live. Let's remind our friends we're broadcasting live from City Leadership, 50 Peabody Place, downtown Memphis. I can see the Orpheum across the way there, and we've got just a few more moments. But you and I were talking, John, before we went on air about education, and as Lisa alluded to, you know, the problems of education, especially in the urban community, trying to create equal opportunities in education, finding the best educators and recruiting, you know, quality educators to come to our city. Those who are already here, you know, challenging them to, you know, pick up the baton and move forward and help make a difference in our Shelby County school system and in the lives of our young people here in our city.
Well, you know, education is an issue nationwide, and urban education is a very huge issue for every major city in the United States. And in Memphis, we are being as aggressive and as innovative as any other city, if not more so than every other city in our country. In fact, most of the country is looking to us to figure out how to solve problems so they can scale it and repeat it in their place. And so we're actually trying multiple different things in multiple different ways and trying to figure out what works, and then so that can actually be picked and figured out what's the best thing that we can continue to innovate for the rest of the country. Memphis has innovated multiple different things throughout its 200-year history for the rest of the world, and urban education is the next thing. The thing on teachers is that urban education is one of the most complex and difficult jobs in our country. And it continues to be a thing that really wears on. It's hard. You know, trying to catch up students who are 2-3 years behind is a very, very difficult process to do. And it shouldn't be taken lightly. And it's very, very hard. And so one of the things we have to do in our community, we have to realize that teachers are heroes. They're just as big as heroes as policemen and firemen, and I think those three people groups should be applauded every room they walk into. But it's hard when we can recognize policemen and firemen, and when they walk into a place, somebody buys their coffee, shakes their hand. The other 30 people in the coffee shop could all be teachers, and you never know. And they're hard; they're hidden superheroes, and so we have to make a big deal about them. But at the same time, we have to replace them because they retire. They change careers. They decide to go home. They've taught for 4, 6, 12, 40 years. They decide to move on from education. And so we have a national teacher shortage in several different subject areas. And so if we don't recruit that talent to come here and teach, we won't have them. And
John,
they've got to be here. And we need them here at Teach 901.
And how can folks get more information about this?
Yep, so we've got a website up with hundreds of jobs available. We'd love for Memphians to fill every single one of those. Jobs.teach901.com. Jobs.teach901.com. All those jobs are out there. Post on Facebook. Send to all your friends. Anybody in the country, especially anybody in Memphis, we need you to apply right now.
All right. John Carroll, Lisa, Jeff, thank you so much for your time on our program today. Well, friends, that's about all the time. John, we're going to have to say goodbye. We're going to have to come back. You're going to have to come to the studio. We're going to have to plan other programs in the future.
Let's do it.
There's a lot happening here. We can't just expose. And one day, can we, Lisa? We got more to share, don't we?
We sure do.
All right. Jeff, thanks again.
Yeah, no problem.
Hey, friends, that's all the time we have on this edition of our live Mid-South Viewpoint program, coming to you from City Leadership. Definitely choose 901. And we're going to say goodbye on this program. I'm Byron Tyler. We'll talk to you next time. Bye-bye.